Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. We're doing the Q&A. I promised about 2 weeks ago. Reason being because I've been ill and I'm still recovering alright, and I'm getting better. I am but I'm still working as well at the same time while also being hydrating, that sort of thing, and I'm doing okay. Anyway, let's do this Q&A. So I've only got 4 people to really answer the questions, but we can go through them anyway. It might be a bit longer unless some decent little discussions of all these questions. And there are interesting questions. You guys who send them in, you guys, you've done, these questions are fantastic. They're really good. So first up, I can probably do is DVD and Film Bloke. I did submit some questions for his Q&A he did a couple of months ago, and he submitted some more back. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. You've always been there. Always be there for you as well. Definitely, mate. So what is the first question you've sent me? What is the worst film you've ever seen? Tough question. I am doing this, for Series 10, I'm doing the worst 30 movies of all time. Well, the first word in that, the worst. I keep saying no, not first, it's worst. Excuse me that. The worst 30 movies I've, in my opinion, or something like that. I can't really say the 13 worst movies because that's giving the game away. I'll do three movies that weren't included for Series 10. The first one being Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I was thinking about going something like Men in Black 2, but I think with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's got, if, people still throw a lot of shit at it, all the time. I mean, considering it came maybe 11 years, it came 11 years ago, that did. And, I saw in cinemas at the time. I would have been about, how would I be about? Maybe 11, I think, or 12. 11 or 12, rough that age. And I remember enjoying it. But as I got older, I've seen, obviously, and of course with YouTube and everything else, I did see in a different light, of course, and everybody was slamming it, of course, and, saying it's the worst movie of the franchise ever. I never thought I'd do a weird comic book guy impression, and I think the problem is, Harrison Ford's too old. You have Shia LaBeouf in the movie, because this is coming off his success of Transformers the year before. You have Karen Allen returning, Ray Winston's in there for some reason. You have Cate Blanchett as some bobhead Russian who's obsessed with aliens and, and being straight-laced and being like a mannequin, who basically looks like a walking mannequin anyway. John Hurt's being sort of like an inquisitive performance, and some of the CGI and there's some gross out humour as well. In a way, we saw the anthill type thing, of course. This whole the Russian general or the Russian captain being eaten, being killed alive by giant ants, red ants, fire ants, and and also the UFO ending as well. It's quite strange. It's quite strange, really, but people always prefer the original trilogy. I think people would say Crystal Skull's is worse than Temple of Doom. That's okay. I do like Temple of Doom, actually. I do think, Raiders is good and Last Crusade is good. I do like Temple of Doom as well. I like it sort of strange, creepy, it does have that sort of Hammer horror type style to it as well. That you sometimes get, of possessions and also sacrificing, that sort of thing. You do get sort of that sort of taste in Temple of Doom, which I do like. With Crystal Skull, it's very sort of big glossy. I know they're trying to recreate a few things, what Spielberg was doing, of course. Well, him and Lucas, really. I mean, one of the original pitches for the story was Frank Darabont, who actually he wrote screenplays for both Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. And obviously he submitted screenplays to Spielberg, and he was really into it. Then afterwards, George Lucas come over and decided to give it a B-movie edge. Excuse my lips. B-movie edge. And decided to include, UFOs and everything else. So basically, he tried to shove his own American Graffiti influence into Crystal Skull, obviously, and afterwards, that he sort of retired very much afterwards. Really, I think that's what became his last film. Really, um, and obviously they're planning this fifth one, and he's not attached. I don't know where that might go. Actually, I think because with Spielberg, he does carry it, hold a candle. He does, and some of the films they does actually do well. So with a fifth one in his hand, instead of him and Lucas hold it hand by hand, it's just Spielberg on his own with this one. But we'll have to wait and see. I don't know. People will be so skeptical about it, but we'll just have to wait and see about that. I think another one I can really think of is Spy, maybe because I'm not a fan of Melissa McCarthy in general. I wouldn't say she's, you know, not the worst, I would say. I mean, her performance in Can You Ever Forgive Me is quite good, actually, with Richard Grant. I think that's one of the best performances, really. I mean, her comedy stuff I don't really like. I mean, Bridesmaids, the remake of Ghostbusters, to do The Heat is another one. Happy Town Murders. All these sort of comedy movies, they just don't work well, really. I mean, some may do. I mean, Bridesmaids might have done well, but a lot of the other stuff was stuff like, Happy Town Murders and Ghostbusters especially sort of had really just, planted like a nail in the coffin very much for some comedies, really. Even though they're still dishing out comedies, but they're not really good anymore these days. There needs to be a really good, comedy movie that's all really just well. I mean, you used to get that very much. I think from the 50s to 90s, that's so interesting. There's always like in different decades, there's always one that will pop out, and you think, well, yes. But I think in the 2000s, especially like in the 2000s, I think there might have been a few underrated gems. But I think with the 2010s, there was always that sort of thing. Let's do it in this old gross out humour, parodies, and everything. It's just like now we're just running to a hole. We are at some point, really. And obviously with Spy, just spoof the genre. Jude Law and Jason Statham are there. I think it's just to really keep it in somewhat to a British level. I think, really. You never see really Jason Statham do comedy, really. I've seen Vin Diesel has done comedy before. I think Pacifier was one, but Statham, probably not. It's a bit odd, really. Jude Law, I think he might have doubled with comedy before. Comedy dramas, who knows? Dramatities, bleh. That does make people cringe sometimes. That makes Mark Hamill cringe, really. So, yes, really. I think Spy could be another one. So that's two. And a third one, The Cave. Now, I've seen The Descent, and that's brilliant. That's creepy as hell. Brilliant British horror film directed by Neil Marshall. Around the same time I did watch The Cave. It's like a watered down version of that. It's rated 12, so it's aimed for the PG-13 market, and it's got CGI horrible monsters. And it's just not very good. It's trash, really. I never really thought to include it on there. It's just like it's very forgettable. So you think, oh yes, I remember seeing that, and it's so long ago, and obviously I didn't really bother look into it again, really. So it's not really worthwhile, really. So that's your first question answered. Your second question, what compelled you to start the YouTube channel? What compelled me? I've always wanted to voice my own opinions about certain stuff, really. Because, we've always got our own opinions to tell, really, about certain things, You really want to tell something interesting, really. And I've always wanted to talk about just like, so, maybe a few certain movies I've really enjoyed. You think, no one's really heard of this movie, really. And I really want to talk about it, spread to a wider audience, rather than just maybe write a review very much. I mean, that it does take a bit of thought process, really. Now for me, I mean, in terms of like writing wise and everything else, my thought process is a bit different with that, actually. I do think of the idea, but it ends up being muddled a little bit sometimes. Whereas with me, I speak my mind and actually comes up a bit more cohesive, really, in a way, if you get what I mean. My sort of opinions are a bit more understandable if I speak very much, rather than type or write. You know, it's sort of it doesn't make sense. There's like there's little gaps and everything else and stuff like that really, and that sort of thing. So I thought maybe I can really give it a go really, and I did see a lot of YouTube stuff, of course, really back in the day. I mean, used to watch a lot of music review channels, in which Darren Locke was one of them because he was sort of the prog wizard, like the prog gatekeeper he was back in those days. He's sort of dawning about now, but I sort of unsubscribed from him at some point. Maybe about I think maybe early or late last year, really. I think because it's sort of got a bit boring, and he's still carrying on. Like he's basically the old donkey that's wandering is in the desert for how many years, very much, and he's still in that desert. He is. So yeah. So in terms of compelling my start to YouTube, the funny thing was I did start making videos, but on Facebook in 2016. Reason being because I had the iMovie app, and I was basically testing it out and see what can I do with it. And the very first thing I did was I did a movie review of something I talked about, which we discussed in series 10. So that'll be interesting. And afterwards, I really started to enjoy it, and I did over 50 videos. I did about 2 seasons worth of movie reviews, 20 each actually. Believe it or not, before the actual, I started doing like maybe 12 a season really, just to slim it down. In terms of 50, I did 2 seasons worth, so that's 20 episodes. So that's 40. But also I did like a side season, a horror season. I did 10 of them, and obviously it became a bit of a success. Some people did talk about it actually, and and maybe a little bit actually, but some people enjoyed it really. Um, I do have to admit the framing wasn't the best. It was all blocky and sort of, well, a little bit blocky and a bit sort of blurry very much, and my narration was very sort of not the best really. Mind you, the low quality didn't help at all. So yes, really. But afterwards, I keep getting comments from a guy called Dylan Kay. It was an old mate. I know from secondary school actually. Same age as me. He is now in university here. So at some point, to put it this way, I can really say Dylan Kay was more of a. He was basically a skater. He had sort of like bobbish hair. Everyone used to pick on him and fight with him. He used to have every single day he used to have like kind of monster all the time in his bag. Like always. He used to be sort of like a dealer guy. He was a nice, great guy. I respected him, and there was a fine line guy, a friend of mine called Conor Barker always say, another one bites the Dylan K, all that sort of thing. Interesting, but he was a great guy, he was. I do have to, aye. So he kept pestering me, he did, and obviously he messaged him, he came a messenger and said, why don't you do a YouTube channel? And that sort of thing. And I finally sort of gave in, really, and I ended up just doing the YouTube channel. So basically, if you wonder who's responsible for this channel, you can blame this guy called Dylan Kay. And no, I'm not going to send him a link to his Facebook page or any social media so you can badger him. So, he did appear in a video once actually. What was it called? I did that sort of like 2-part video thing. Well, the first part's called Well, and second part's There's This. He's in the second part. He is, him diving in the bush. Really, tall guy wearing a hoodie, and he has death and says like his, I can hear his death screams and that sort of thing. That is Dylan Kay. So he is part of the channel, and he was one of the main catalysts for this thing. Really, for for the past 2 years, really. I haven't really seen him for years, really, but I did saw him briefly 3 years ago in town somewhere. Really, yeah. So that's where I've ended, really. So I saw him on Facebook first, then I ended up on YouTube. Thanks to one guy. And the third and final question is, what is your favourite movies on disc or tape box set? So you mean like a box set with, so basically either tape or discs, really. Um, Two of them are, well, in terms of discs, really, I've got three actually. It's hard to really pinpoint a really perfect one. The first two being Box the Band 1 and 2, which I've already shown in a collection video, of course, for 18 certificate, and also they appeared in series 9. But the other one was a box set, a Hammer Horror box set. Some people, you might know what this one is. It's a 21 disc box set. Trying to think who released it. Bloody hell. It came in about 2005, 2006. 21 films spanning from 1965 or 65 to 76. So it's basically like doing its heyday of Hammer towards its end, really. So 21 films. I got that from Lancaster in Sex. I did. For £25. If you go to HMV, they're selling it for about £69.99 or £70, really. I got it for £25, cheap, and it was all in great condition. Had all the discs, had the booklet, and it had postcards in. How nice! So that's one of my favourite box sets, of course. I mean, there might be a few like those little slimline ones, but I can't really think of any really. But those box sets in particular I'm a horror fan really, so I have to oblige with them ones. They're still as they are. They're fantastic. And there's your questions done, mate. Thank you very much. Next up we got is Baz Banter93. Thanks for the question, Baz. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. You should really do a Q&A at some point, mate. Like maybe fresh up your channel maybe a little bit. I know you do some great stuff on there, of course, but you need to maybe do a Q&A, short Q&A, and I'll definitely submit some questions maybe if that might be an idea if you're maybe interested. Who knows? But I'm going to answer your questions now, mate, and judging by looking at these, they're very interesting, mate. Mind you, they're all interested in all these questions that you people have given me. Thank you very much. So first up is, do you like Only Fools and... Hold on, let me rephrase that. Do you like Only Fools and Horses? That's a definite yes. I think because Only Fools and Horses it has honesty, it has truth. It's well written and it's full of heart, mainly because of the writer John Sullivan. John Sullivan is actually the sort of creative catalyst with Only Fools and Horses. He brings some vigor, but also streetwise and, this sort of, I'm trying to think, this sort of warmth. It has energy, it does, and warmth to it. Then actually everyone appreciates, and it's timeless as well. It has its dramatic moments as well, but it also relies on its comedy as well. It relies on humour and sometimes its sadder moments as well. It depicts, like what Britain was like at the time as well. As people, it's a time. It's again with all these sort of shows and everything else, sitcoms and everything else. It's a time capsule very much of what Britain used to be like, and it does showcase that in Thatcher's Britain, of course, and maybe John Major's Britain as well. When you come to season 6 or 7, really, with that one, and maybe the specials as well. All this sort of stuff and future stuff going on. You get the gist of things. And you have great acting, of course, from David Jason, Sir David Jason, Nicholas Lyndhurst, Ella Pearce, Buster Merrifield, John Challis, Roger Lloyd Pack, Sue Holden, Paul Barber, Teresa Gwyneth, Gwyneth and Teresa. I can't remember their last names. That's a problem there is, but you know who they are really. Ken, he plays Mike the barman. All these great characters. Even Jim Broadbent as well as Roy Slater. There's always great characters in there that somehow you love to hate, as well. I mean Jim Broadbent's character, of course, but all the rest are. You always love them. You do. There's something about them. Even though if they're a bit sort of, either CD, dim-witted, or maybe just a certain quirk with them. You still think they're great. That's a great character, that is. You always get that. In terms of like first time seeing it, I've no memory of it at all. Actually, it's strange, really. I do have some memories of maybe of some certain other shows really that I can remember. The very first time I ever saw an episode of something, but with Only Fools and Horses, it's not there, sadly. I can't remember the first episode I ever saw fully, really. Maybe something on UK Gold back in those days. I really don't know, to be honest. DVD wise, I've only got like three main things with Only Fools and Horses. The first thing being a promotional DVD with a touch of glass that was released on Saturday with the Sun, and the flip side is the Fawlty Towers episode of Inspector or something from the first season that came on News of the World Sunday. I still have that along with a few other things, maybe a few Carry On movies as well, and a few selection, maybe one or two other sitcoms that were released as a. You used to get like 3 episodes of a different sitcom on one disc. If you maybe the Sun or the Daily Mirror or something like that. Really, it's old stuff. I mean, we still have these because we basically got these from actual newspapers back in the day. We don't go into charity shops and get them out of a little basket for about 50p. Not anymore. No, not like that. These have been in the house for years, for a very long time, for decades really, or almost a decade really. So it's worthwhile with that. The second one being the first 7 seasons. A slimline box with slimline DVDs I got from Sex for about £15 really, because I was interested in the whole the collection rather than buying the individual BBC DVD the DVDs of the series individually. I decided to get this box set for a chance. I thought, well, it's only the first 7 seasons, but it's doable. I thought, okay. I mean, I didn't really fork out to get a complete box set very much, but it wasn't until the third thing was and my dad found this actually in Preston. Again from Sex in Preston. It's an interesting thing because it's a 2-story thing. On the bottom floor you sell games and consoles and everything else, and electronic products, iPhones and tablets and old games and stuff like old game cartridges and stuff like that. Then top you get CDs and old DVDs all over the place in that one. And my dad found 2 boxes, and what they were 2 big boxes, and they were meant to be, and they were in the design of, it was like Derek's suitcase, very much leopard skin suitcase or something, and this contained everything from 81 to 2003. This included the specials and everything else, all 7 seasons, all specials, and it was huge. It's a huge thing. It is. You open it up and it's like a scrapbook as well. It's got like stills from all of the seasons plus behind the scenes stuff as well, and also newspaper type cousins of like, of the season and the synopsis for every single episode. It was really good, interesting stuff, and still have it actually. I think I've got it behind where I'm sitting now. Let me have a look. Yes, I do. It's in its leopard skin tight. I can't show this on camera. It's underneath all his laptop stuff. Hold on. It's covered in dust as well. It's, £32 this cost. And it's got everything, series 1 to 7, the Christmas specials, everything. It's massive as hell. If you can hear that. It's thick, and it's thick cardboard. It's got, it's very strong cardboard as well. Ooh, the packaging's good on that. This came out in... I'm trying to think what year this came out. 2006. That came out. That's interesting. Let me put that back. And it's the complete collection. I think it's the first edition of the complete collection, rather than having it in a slimline box or something like that. It's just this big bulky thing, really, but it's massive. So, and that's what I can say about Only Fools and Horses at the moment. At the moment, so I've basically got like two box sets, but one's bigger, one's small and truncated, and I've got a promotional DVD very much, and it's good. The merits of that is the merits of that show, that sitcom, is John Sullivan really, because he's the creative catalyst, if you can pronounce it, of that show. You know, I always give him full credit. I think people always think it's always with David Jason as the main and Nicholas Lyndhurst, all them. But I always think John Sullivan. You know, that's always, it's always a writer's creativity, and all the people around very much that sort of helped, really. But I think with comedy, very much, it's always the writers, really, that sort of give it that push. It's their thing. It's their own child that they're growing up for about how many years, how long ago, how many years until it talks and walks, really. And that's what Only Fools and Horses is. So that's what I'm going to say. That's my sort of in retrospective question answer, really, to much with Only Fools and Horses. Good question, Baz. That's really interesting, in-depth stuff. Your second question, what is your favourite sitcom? Now, there's a tough question. This is a tough question, mate. Well, I can give you a few things. Again, Only Fools and Horses is a great one. Simple answer with that one. Game On is another one, which you've mentioned before or commented, because I did the complete box set back in November. That is good as well. It's it's on the same par as stuff like Member Hem Valley, which is the next one as well. Member Hem Valley is top-notch, brilliant stuff, that is. Them two shows go hand in hand because it's to do with flatmates very much, and quite crude humour as well. Even though they're done by Member Hem Valley was done by ITV for the first two seasons in 91, 92 and 93. Is it? 92, 93? Or both in 92? Yeah. Yeah, I think it is, actually. Yeah, I'm losing track now at the moment. Yeah. But then it was picked up by the BBC for its third season, of course. And I think afterwards, its content and popularity did grow again with the actors of Clinton Morrissey, Quinton, Ash, and you have great supporting characters as well. You have like the actors who play George and Anthea are great. You have John Thompson as Ken in there as well for the latter two seasons and the specials as well. There was great one-off characters, of course. There's always interesting moments as well, pretty hilarious stuff, and same with Game On as well. And you've mentioned before, Baz, that you prefer Neil Stuke to Ben Chaplin of the performance of Matthew. That's quite true because I watched Game On recently. I did watch some early first season stuff, of course, and Ben Chaplin's all right, to be honest, but I think Neil Stuke actually gives him more energy and a bit more. I don't know. There's something with his acting style that sort of works. It gives Matthew that more edge. He does, I think because of Ben Chaplin's more like a handsome Hollywood stranger type. He has that sort of image he does, whereas with Stu he has a more macho type style. Like that sort of works for Matthew does. He is more. He's up to be macho, but he can't. All this sort of thing really, and you sort of see that way more in where he's in intimate scenes, of course, with that sort of was Mandy's therapist friend Jason and stuff like that, and also trying to bring himself forward to actually going out and stuff like that. Stuff with him going out is hilarious. That is, with Stu, he gets them. He actually gets out a bit more, and actually, it works well. Him being paranoid and everything else, it really works that sort of way. I think with Chaplin, there's some certain points with his characterization with Matthew that sort of sometimes works, really, but I just don't know. I think the problem is with him really is, I look at him and I think, the man's too handsome, really, to play that sort of style, that sort of thing. I think with Stu, you get sort of androgynous type style thing with him, and yet it works. I don't know. You have the macho thing, but you have an androgynous type of thing as well with him. Of course, with you have Matthew Cottle as Martin, of course, brilliant, or the ginger tosser is known as. Of course, everyone probably know that. Everyone will probably use it on Twitter, hashtag ginger tosser and that sort of stuff on social media. They probably still use it anyway on the mates, of course. Then you of course have Samantha Yanis, or Womack she's known as now. It's quite interesting because I never really saw. I sort of knew her from EastEnders and a few police dramas back in the early 2000s, but I never really seen her like that before in a sitcom. It's interesting, she's more looser in a way, like you can see a more looser edge with her, and bloody works. Believe me, whew. Because it's 90s stuff. You always work that sort of thing out. But Game On's brilliant, of course. Blackadder is another one. I like the idea they used different historical events, of course, so go into different historical periods very much and do like a tiny flip or do something completely different with it while being in the same setting. It's nice, actually. And Rowan Atkinson is brilliant as them and Blackadder. I could probably say, I think people already know, the first season's not that sort of best, even though people will probably say it's like a proto Mr. Bean-esque type style. I could probably see it when I first knew about it, because when I first knew about the Blackadder, this was advertised in the back of a Doctor Who DVD of the Five Doctors, the 99 edition, which I still have. Which you look at if you look at that old, the old BBC DVD, I think that the Blackadder came out at the same time actually, in 1999. You get to see like there is a sort of a Mr. Bean type look about him. Of course, you think he's like a pompous idiot. It's very much like in the same Mr. And I thought so. Like Ron Atkinson was basically using the same sort of prototype character, but in different shows. Like he was reusing the same sort of character style. But actually, I was proved wrong. Actually, in some cases, really. But there were some good things about it. With the first season, Brian Blessed, of course, as Everett the Fourth. All that sort of stuff is really good. Of course, Miriam Margolyes and Jim Broadbent, was the Spanish Infantry and the Inquisitor or something like that. Quite interesting. Baldrick, not really. He's sort of the smartest out of the trio very much. You see him because you have still Percy and Edmund being the idiots really, and Baldrick being the cunning, intelligent one, really. And obviously they switch roles, and of course, the rest is history on that one. And obviously you come to series 2, of course, Rowan Atkinson has changed his performance in first. I think that's all became a bit interesting because everyone was sort of expecting same thing again, really. And once you see this character, of course, he's still a bit of an idiot, Blackadder, but he has sharp wit, he does. He is quite deceptive, manipulative. Excuse my pronunciation, sorry about that. And, again, just being a little bit of a tyrant, really, in some places, really. And I think people might have been shocked by that, when they saw it in 86, really, when Blackadder 2 came out. And you see a major sea change with his character. You switch round with Baldrick's character, of course. And it carries on all the way through, and that became the formula, of course. And bigger than ever, people still comment on about it. It's still being used in, people still watch it doing history lessons in school. That's what happened to me in secondary school. If you do a history lesson on the First World War, chances are you'll have to watch an episode of Blackadder Goes Forth. I think about how many did we watch? We watched about 3 in total. The first, maybe the second one, and the 6th one. I think or 5th one. I'm not entirely sure really. Or 2. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, but we did watch an episode of Blackadder the 3rd as well at some point, as well. Yeah, so Blackadder is another good one. I think I can count this one as well. The comic strip presents. To be, although it's not counted as a sitcom in a way, it hasn't got a laugh track on it as usual. Some of them, really, it's basically like short films, really, but it's got alternative comedians as well. You have Peter Richardson, Keith Allen, French and Saunders. Rick and Aid, Robert Coltrane. All these brilliant young talent. Of course, they were that came from, the CD club, CD club scene. Of course, the Raven Rhubarb and that sort of stuff. And it was really fascinating. And the creativity they put in all this sort of stuff is interesting. The first thing from the comic strip presents in '82 was Five God Mendoza, which was a parody of Ian Blind's The Famous Five and all that sort of stuff. Really, really good that is. And a sequel came out in Five God Madame Mesclin. There's some favourite stuff on there as well. I might have to do a review of that at some point. I need to, actually. But the comic strip presents really good stuff. It's lasted a good while, and they do one-off specials now and again on Gold, but it hasn't really lasted much, really. I think from its original, from 82 to 2000, that's when it gets at its peak, and its weirdness as well. I probably am about to say as well. Last of the Summer Wine, I can probably say it's the longest running series. 31 seasons, from 73 to 2010. Believe it or not, classic wise, it's pretty. From the classic era, is really good. I think the main thing with that, of course, is the performance of Bill Owen as Compo. He really sells Last of Summer Wine. Really, I think when he suddenly passed away, of course, there's that sort of big thing to fill his shoes. And they do that sometimes, with some sort of these, they try to find the right thing, with standards, Keith Clifford as Billy Hardcastle, Brian Murphy as Alvin Smedley, what's his name? I can't pronounce his name. Playing Entwistle, like all these interesting characters, of course, trying to fill Billow in shoes, or wellies, really. And sometimes it works, sometimes sometimes it doesn't, The man there was a point that probably, would have come to an end at some point. It did depend, really, at some point, because it kept going on for a long time, It went for the 70s, it went for the 80s, it went for the 90s, and it went for the 2000s, only to be finished at the very start of the 2010s, at the very start, quite surprisingly, I think if it still carried on, it'd probably be, if it kept carrying on to this very day, to now, we're in 2019, it probably won't have, it probably will lost its magic, really, with Roy Clark, very, very busy, a very busy man, really, to be, kept writing, he did keeping up appearances pretty much, for a good number of years. And obviously he did Up All Hours. He's still Up All Hours right now. But I do think that's all. Some shows are padded out too long. That sort of thing. Still Up All Hours maybe have its charm, but it hasn't got its spark as it used to have, really. I think when it came back as a one-off, it did work. Granville's still carrying on, running the shop, he's doing a Ronnie Barker impression and that sort of thing, and he should really do his own thing. He should stay to what Granville should have really been, very much. But I don't know if that's a creative decision or not. I don't know. So going back to Last of Summer Wine, but if it really did carry on to this very day, if it ended next year, and it probably wouldn't even mattered, to be honest. But I think if it when it stopped in 2010, I think at that point, people were just ready to think, it's carrying on too much. You think, where's it going to go? I think the BBC had maybe a similar thing, really, to be honest. Even though you have a great cast of characters, of course. Pierce Alice, of course, he remained to the very end, of course, from beginning to end. Was it Michael Blamar? He was the first one. No, I think Cyril. No. Michael something his name is. He played Cyril Blamar. Brian Wilde, of course, Michael Aldridge, Frank Fortin. All these great people. Like there's, you always strike gold when you hit like an amazing, interesting trio. I think when Bill Owen was alive, very much, those trios did hit gold very much. I don't think with the first two seasons very much, they might have done really, but I didn't really see much out of it really. I think with Bramwell onwards, and Michael Aldridge and Frank Fulton, there was that sort of chemistry. It did work, you felt something, like there was chemistry there. The writer was there. It sort of did work. I did think sometimes the supporting characters did over drench, took over too much. I did have to admit with that very much, and especially with the late seasons, of course, they focused too much on Howard very much. I do have to admit, Howard. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he really isn't. I don't blame the actor for him. Robert, whatever his name is. He's good in most parts, but I think with sometimes like they really focus on, and Barry as well, of course. I think they really focus on heavy on them. And the trio just, it's like sometimes in a movie, like they focus on the supporting characters that like on this person here, whereas they're supposed to focus on this person here. The main person is on the poster and anything else, and as top billing and that sort of thing, and he appears maybe 20 minutes, really much, roughly 20 minutes, and that's it. It sort of feels like that, really, in some places, these, they're heavily focused on the supporting characters in some certain episodes, and the trio are just there. You sort of miss them. They're sort of out of the picture for about 10, 15 minutes, very much, quite a while, and you sort of get that, but. Saying that, Last Night Some White has its qualities as well. I did watch some episodes recently from season 12 actually, because they were, because Drama broadcast them recently, with Aldridge. What was the episode? What was we watching? Bollocks, was it? So there's something called Combat Jack Harry Teasel. That's one of the episodes, and. Oh, and that one, who's that? Was it who's that person? Renora Batty, of course. It actually turned out to be Barry's uncle Eric trying to sell some samples or something like that. And Comple thought she found the perfect man and stuff like that. And trying to sell a boat and wear some ridiculous swim gear. But there was some good stuff out there, really. But those are the ones I can name a few. So those are the best ones in particular. Dad's Army, New Statesman, Bottom. Bottom's a fantastic novel, good one. No, there's an endless amount of them. I think some worse ones I can think of, like, I do think Mrs. Brown's Boys is too overrated. I'm not really sort of keen on that very much. I think when it came out, it was hilarious, but that was years ago, that was. When you look at it now, there's a movie, there's a chat show thing going on with it as well. The live shows, it's too oversaturated. They popularised it too much. It's too much in the mainstream. It should have done its bin after it should have done its 3 seasons and just went. Brendan Carroll's creation should have just gone and left it in the dark in a corner somewhere. It's not as good as it used to be. It's too popularised. And people don't really talk about it anymore, It's just there now. It's just there on Saturday, and people don't. I think around where I'm from, people don't really talk about that sort of stuff anymore. Really, there's some certain stuff people talk about, but that's all Mrs. Brown's thing. Mrs. Brown's Boys, that's history. Very much, not going out. I don't really care for that one really. Miranda. To be honest. Sometimes Miranda Hart can be funny, sometimes she can be bloody irritating. Her comedy style, there was a really... it's too cringe-worthy sometimes. You know, it's really, it depends how much cringe worth you can take, how much cringe you can take in bucket loads. You know, that's how you really take. Sorry for the rants, Baz. I do have to admit, sorry for the rants about this sort of thing. If you like that sort of stuff, fair enough. But for me, not so much. All right, that's sitcoms on the way. Question number 3: is there any remakes that you've enjoyed? Any remakes? I'm trying to think of any remakes I've watched recently. Friday the 13th, 2009. I know there's a weird thing about Michael Bay's company Platinum Dunes remaking beloved horror classics. You know, stuff like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Amityville Horror is another one. But Friday the 13th is I actually really did enjoy, even though it's a remake, but it actually combines the first 4 movies together in some ridiculous way. But I really enjoyed it. It's simple and cohesive, and I just really enjoyed it, really, to be honest. You know, you have this sort of, I think in terms of the movies that they sort of use, of course, you know, there's a flashback sequence, of course, with, you know, Jason Smith killing the campers, of course. I think it does have references of, like, you know, Jason as a child as well. So that's part 1, that's number 1 sorted out. Part 2, you probably have him killing people with a sack over his head and everything else. That's all part 2 of the way. And I think he keeps him off his head as well at some point, I think, in the movie. Really, that's part 2. Part 3, you get the hockey mask, of course, and everything else introduced. And part 4, the final chapter, of course, in the final chapter, it's to do with like the sort of the missing person thing, which obviously is related to a family thing, of course, or something. You know, Jason keeps, you know, Jason kidnaps, of course, and thing. You know, basically thinks that she looks like his mother, and that sort of thing, really. But overall, it's a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I'm going cheap one time, and I really enjoyed it. Another one is what's that film? Friday Night, 2011. That's got like the late Anton Yelchin, Imogen Poots, Colin Farrell, David Tennant, Toni Collette. You know, it's pretty interesting actually. You know, and pretty good actually. You know, compared to the original film, Tom Holland's version. I think Tom Holland's it's a cult classic anyway from '85. You know, I don't think the sequel that came out in the late '80s did well, to be honest. But this actually came as a little bit of a surprise. It actually did okay actually. You know, considering they did it in the modern setting, modern day Las Vegas, it's all worked. Did he actually came out as a sort of response for Twilight? I'm not entirely sure really, but overall it's not a bad remake really. In terms of like, that's horror really, to be honest. In terms of other ones, there hasn't been pretty good ones in my regards. Trying to think. I'm not really keen on the Disney live action remakes at all, really. I've only ever seen. I remember seeing Alice in Wonderland all those years ago, back in 2010. As a kid, I thought it was okay, but as an adult, I just don't really like it at all. I don't see the point of them just, you know, doing every single Disney movie. If they, I might have mentioned this before in the video, but if they do, if they remake The Black Cauldron, or Oliver and Company or something like that, Basil the Great Master Detective, and you know, all these the lesser known movies, I'll probably use some shit. Really, I'll probably just go mad and, you know, think, you know, Disney, you've really ruined it this time. You know, they've ruined it once for me. They did. They ruined my love for the films, of course, which I'll probably get into the worst movies of all time at some point. Some people will probably be surprised what that might be, but if they keep remaking all these animated classics, you know, it's quite surprising they did Dumbo. This year they're doing Lion King. This year Aladdin's come out, and you think, you know, it's too much. You know, and you know, it's too, you know, it's all this white noise and it's just all this horrible stuff. You know, but if they really go sink low and scrape the ball at the barrel, bottom of the barrel, you know, I will lose my shit if they do Black Cauldron. You know, as much of a creepy film that is, you know, it's just like, would it be done even without John Hurt's creepy voice and that sort of stuff, and much to annoyance people of Gurky and that sort of thing, really. But yeah, I have really don't like those Disney remakes at all. I'm trying to, I'm still thinking to any good ones, thinking about it. I just don't know, really. Some people might comment below, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. But them two movies, Friday the 13th and Friday Night, do work perfectly in some regards. And your final question is, if you made a movie, which actors who would you cast? Or would you like to star in it, both UK and US? If I made a big budget Hollywood movie, very much, I do have ideas for, I made stories, of course, and if I submit a story to any actors and if they would be really interested, I thought of an interesting movie called In the Fires of Spring, which is like a psychotic thriller saying I would say like a sanctuarium to do with women being brainwashed to kill against men, to be empowered or something like that. I could probably have people like and to do like six private detectives very much on the same case. They're hired by different people, but on the same case. And they're like six main leads, of course. So you have stuff like you have people like Vince Vaughn, Ben Stiller, Benicio del Toro, Woody Harrelson, Billy Bob Thornton, and Jason Priestley. I would cast them. And for the sort of like antagonist type, I would guess say leaders or priestess. I don't know what you call it, really, like sort of like mother superiors or something like that. Sort of like Juliette Lewis, Drew Barrymore, very much. That's all they have. That sort of craziness. They're sort of carrying a few movies that I've seen years ago. Them sort of ones really. That'll be really interesting, of course, and that might be an interesting movie to really watch. Really, these six men basically get killed off in a centurion by women. That seems that it's more like a video. It's like a snuff film, but some information come out of it, or other movies really. But I thought it'd be a really interesting idea. It's an idea I have for a few years, and I'm still writing the damn thing. But it's a good idea. So that's more like a American US movie, really. In terms of UK, really, if I did like a smaller indie movie, I could probably cast you, Baz, as a sort of like a maybe supporting role or main lead, really, because I actually watched your short film, The Fools of Flimley, and I thought your your double part, of course, really good, mate. You have a good, interesting, good presence. You do, pretty good. I would edit and probably produce it, but also score as well. I actually do score some pieces on YouTube as well, and I thought that'd be a really good idea. Another actor I could probably cast is a guy called Ellie Baxter, who I've known for years, and he's done stuff with the BBC before, so like Silent Witness and a show for CBBC called Harry's Army. That's good questions, mate. That's a probably pick. So next up we got is a new entry. This is Dylan Prince. He submitted 3 questions actually, but first let's talk about this little comment he's put on here. So first, discover your channel by the review you did on Reassuring Bob 2. 40 was well thought out and put together. Cheers, mate. That's very kind of you. Reassuring Bob 2, that video has actually done pretty well in terms of views, actually. That's gained about, last time I checked, 8,000 views, actually, believe it or not. Quite surprisingly. And its numbers are still growing. It's the top viewed video on my channel, strangely enough. And so you submitted some questions as well. 3 questions. Good on you, mate. What other Alan Clark films are you most fond of? Well, I do review Scum for Series 7. 79, well, I quite fondness of the television play from 77 and the theatrical movie from 79. So that's one of them. Penda's Fen from 1974. I found out quite recent, maybe a couple of years ago actually. Quite an interesting one. And the other one is called Made in Britain from 1982, another television play. They're both Penn Sven and Made in Britain, but also the original version of Scum are television plays they did for a show called Play for Today on the BBC. That's great. I mean, Made in Britain actually stars Tim Roth as well, like in sort of like in a skin as a skinhead really. I do have Made in Britain on a DVD somewhere. I don't know if it's like a two disc edition of it, but I do have it. I got it cheap from a store a few years back. Still have it in storage somewhere. I need to still get around to watch it at some point. You know, I still have in front of me. There's a two disc edition of Scum that contains the television play and the theatrical movie from '79. So that's okay. So those are the ones I'm sort of familiar with really, in terms of any other Alan Clark movies. So Scum, Penn Sven, and Made in Britain. Question number 2: are you on Letterboxd? Now I actually had to research Letterboxd to see what this was. When it first came to my attention, I thought, in this for the question, I thought, is it like a dating app thing, a bit like Tinder, or something like that? Apparently isn't. It's like it's a movie reviewing app really that's all linked to social media and everything else. I thought it looks interesting. It does, but I can't get it. I'm not on Letterboxd because I've never heard of the thing. I've sort of found out what it is now, but I'm not on it, and I won't be for maybe for a while. It depends if I get this thing sorted out, because I have a bit of an issue with my Apple ID, very much at the moment. I've got a few certain apps, of course. I got the YouTube app. I've got some few social media apps as well at the moment, but everything else like I really want to get, I can't get because I changed my Apple ID. I've got my own Apple ID, and it's caused me problems really because I can't really download or update any apps very much. So I can't really get on Letterboxd at the minute, or for now. I don't know if this problem's going to be resolved maybe later on in the year. I'm not entirely sure, but I have to wait and see. But never say never. And number 3, are you aware of Daisuke Beppu on YouTube? If not, check him out. I did have a look at his content actually, and it's not bad actually. I do have to, interesting guy, interesting personality, and I might have to get to his work at some point. I haven't really viewed much of his stuff. I've only maybe seen maybe 1 or 2 videos because you sort of recommend it to me. But once I get the time, I could probably check out his stuff a bit more when I have time actually, and see where that'll go. So, Dylan Prince, thanks for the questions, mate, and thanks for your nice comments on Reading Film Bloke 2. And I'll probably still keep going on with the film reviews, of course, at some point, and I'm looking forward to Series 10. That's going to be more interesting. A bit more weird, a bit more strange, and some weird picks for the best and worst movies of all time. So, we'll see. So, thank you for your questions. And to finish off, we've got 4 questions from Aiden Slater. Thanks, Aiden. Thanks for the questions, mate. You did submit some questions for the previous Q&A. So, cheers, mate. Thank you very much. And his questions are: have you ever played The Simpsons Hit and Run? I have done, Aiden. Back in the day with PS2. I do remember The Simpsons Hit and Run was a huge game. It was massive. It was, at the time. It was quite huge. Again, everyone played it. Everybody always had it when PlayStation 2 was around. It was a memorable game. It was, and it's still being played today actually, because I think, for I've noticed, you started playing again, of course, with this one. And going through like walkthroughs and everything else. But it has this long-lasting effect, it does, and it was still big. It's still popular now, actually, because when people are still buying this thing on the old PS2 for a very cheap price, they find them in stores now and again. It's all still big and everything else, and it has a long-lasting impression with some games. Most of these games do have like a very long-lasting impression. They do. I mean, GTA Grand Theft Auto San Andreas or GTA San Andreas, that is still long-lasting. People still love that. They do. Even though Grand Theft Auto 5 or GTA 5 sort of trumped that by now, with GTA Online and all this whole DLC stuff that you get, all this big, it's expanded and been more over the top and everything else, but people still remember GTA San Andreas. I mean, I remember when I had to get rid of a load of PS2 games. And I remember a security guard who was there, he was actually in the store. He's basically, all he was doing was browsing around, seeing what there was really. And he was at the counter at the same time I brought these in. And he was having a decent look and he found San Andreas. I think, blimey, that takes me back. That does, and that sort of thing. So Simpsons Hit and Run again, similar thing. I do remember in the Simpsons game that came out, I don't know if that was actually on the same par as the Simpsons movie, 2007, I think. Because I remember again PS2 on that version, and that was actually quite big. Different. That was sort of again another huge thing, very much. I don't know if it was really for a tie-in with the movie. I'm not entirely sure. I think maybe it can be a year later, a year before. I don't know. But again, it was huge. Marketing, everything else. It was just massive. It was, It's quite interesting now because afterwards they never really did any more, didn't they? Any more Simpsons games? Hit and Run, Knockout. Same with the Simpsons game, but you also had like Road Rage, and that terrible skating game as well. But they really all good games. They really spawned dud, I think, in particular. But they never really released any more, like maybe for the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, something like that. They never really carried on since. Interesting. But I've played it before, and to be honest, strangely enough, I actually only went up to the Bart Simpson level very much. I think it was more towards, the race with comic book guy very much, and that was really about it, really. I never really managed that far. That's all, about that much, really. But it's still a good game, actually. I don't see myself playing it at all. But I still have, I still have respect for it, of course. It's still a good game and everyone's still enjoying it and still playing it. They are. So, what's not to love? Now, your second question is, have you ever watched any classic kids TV shows? For example, Noddy, Rosie and Jim, Postman Pat, etc. All those do the boxes, yeah, but I've seen loads, mate. Growing up, I've seen tons. It was either on VHS or television repeats or stuff like that. Or maybe catching on, maybe see on TV or CBBC now and again. I've seen tons, mate. My memory is very massive for the law stuff. I've done Path of Nostalgia, so there's a lot of stuff that I've seen. There's some stuff I've never watched actually because I never really bothered seeing. Maybe to some people that's sort of a bit of an eye opener really, but I've covered quite a lot of stuff that I've seen. Not much. There was quite a few. I mean, some examples. Danger Mouse is one I've seen, but I never included in Path of Nostalgia for some reason. Clangers is another one, even though I wasn't truly fond of it really. Mr. Ben is another one. Oh God, what can I think of? What else can I think of? I remember like Tiny Planets as well. Who remembers that? And the Cubies. Jeez, that is something. Hilltop Hospital is another one actually. I do remember seeing bits and pieces of on CITV years ago. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there really. Once you look at it, it's like, it's a bygone era. There's a lot of interesting, there's always these interesting gems. You have your stand-up classics, of course, that everyone always craves and stuff like that, It's always just interesting. I am doing a series of Cold Cassette Confessions, of course. That's really going deep into my childhood, that is. That's really going straight deep and memories and stuff. That is really showcasing what it really means. Mainly for a person who actually grew up on VHS, really. Rather than see these on, although I've seen maybe a couple on television repeats, but it's mainly to do with the VHS because it's a weird thing actually because I've only ever experienced new stuff or seen old shows that I've never seen before on VHS. Really, I've only had access to a VHS player and multiple VHSs, so that's my childhood in a nutshell. Really, early years from the '90s from to about the early 2000s. Really, so it's basically all that sort of stuff. Really, it's quite bizarre, but it works. It so works in a way it does, and yeah, really. I have nothing else to say about that really, because I've really covered a lot of ground, or we talk about favourites. If you want to know my opinions on these shows, I mean the ones you've covered, you've sort of exampled on. I've done reviews. I've done like little tiny little retrospectives on them anyway, and they're half-assed and rough and ready, but that's what I loved about them, making about them. So if you need to, just type Path Nostalgia and there's a big playlist. There's about 83 videos worth for it. So 83 videos worth of content on there. So if you're interested, maybe not. I don't know. Your third question is, what is your favourite Pixar movie? I think for you mentioned Toy Story 2. Pixar movies. I'm really trying to think what is the best in my, what is the best. I mean, I think the problem is I never really enjoyed some of the sequels, of course. I mean, I'm trying to think, the Cars trilogy is a bit sort of half-assed in some places. I mean, 2 and 3 are not the best. First one's good, I do have to admit, but it's not not my favourite at all, really. I mean, I saw it as just a decent old film, really. It came, we were still kids at that point, and it was good. It was good fun. I think for me, it has to be the first Toy Story movie from '95, because it came. I remember it, of course, because my parents had the VHS of it from '96. The old Disney VHS. I still have it somewhere actually, and it always remains one of my favourite Disney movies of all time. I think I said this before. I think that's the only sort of Pixar movie I really enjoy. I mean, there might be A Bug's Life as well, even though I can't remember much about it. That could be a close second. The trilogy, well, it's a quad trilogy now actually with the Toy Story now series anyway, because 4's coming out soon. But I think all 4 movies are really good. There's no dud whatsoever in these movies. There's solid direction, great dialogue, great scripts. There's always a good story in it as well. Great characters. That's what makes these movies brilliant. There's no there's no fluke. It's just pure instant. It's pure. It's funny. It's sad. It is truth. It's got heart. It's got energy as well. It's got scary moments as well. But it makes those elements really work well. It makes it long lasting as well. Plus, they've actually dragged them out quite a bit actually, in some places, because you have the first one came out in '95, the second one came out in '99, the third one came out until 2010, and this one's coming out in 2019. So there's long gaps with the sequels, of course. They don't do one every 2 years, very much. And that's what I really enjoy about them. You're quite surprised. They're doing another film after how many years. Incredibles is the same actually, and it took about 14 years to make a sequel for that one, even though people were thinking this could be a good franchise. Of course, how many sequels can we make of this one? And Brad Bird never did. He did the first one. Afterwards, he moved on to other projects, and it took him maybe until maybe last year or something to really actually do a sequel. Because no one, I think no one was actually ever counted on one. Actually, I don't know, but I think people are thinking, there could be a good sequel out of this. It probably come out to about 2006. No, it came out in 2018. So quite a little funny little end with that. I mentioned Bug's Life, of course. I'm really trying to think of any other ones that actually came out. It's hard to pinpoint some of them. I know Cars, that was okay. That was. Oh God, I'm trying to think. I don't know really, but I have to pick Toy Story, the first one, because I even though it's early, it's quite early. It's the very first Pixar movie of even though they did some short movies before in the late 80s and stuff like that. I did watch that, what do you call it, that Tim Drum or something called Tin Man short film they made. It is quite creepy, I do have to admit, with the baby in it. That baby, ugh, believe me. I mean, stylistic, they did some interesting things with that, of course. If you put that in a children's compilation, for the maybe for a children's TV favourites from the NSPC and put that in, and you think probably freak the kids out with that one. But it was actually pretty. It was actually interesting. It was considering it was all very early digimation and stuff like that. It was really fascinating. It was, and they ended up doing like a full movie, of course, in '95 in the mid-90s, which actually did very well. Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Annie Potts, all these great voice actors, famous actors, of course, actually really lending their voices to the characters, of course. That makes them very distinctive. Now you can't really imagine anyone else doing them very much. You can't imagine somebody else taking over Tom Hanks' position as Woody for how many sequels onwards. Very much. His brother Jim, Tom Hanks' brother Jim, can actually take over. I don't know, but it's very distinctive. Tom Hanks has a very distinctive voice. Same with Tim Allen. There's all and with John Lasseter and all them. Don Rickles, all them. They have very strong distinctive voices that really work and bring these characters to life. They do. I mean, the animation's a bit sort of when you rewatch it, it's like, oh god, gee, that bit's quite and it's a bit sort of like that's quite flat. That's quite that's not really doesn't render quite well. You do have your nitpicks for it, but but you remember it for what it was. It is quite disturbing and frightening in some places when you get to Sid's house and that sort of stuff. The one thing that sort of freaked me out was the when they end up in the gas station scene, and it's actually when Buzz attacks Woody and they come up and they get thrown out of the car. And it's when the tanker comes over and that really freaked the hell out of me as a child. Really creeped me out. I don't know why. I think because of the loud noise and actually the animation of the thing rolling in, obviously, and Woody actually nearly getting crushed by it. That's actually the thing that really freaked me out. Everything else actually was no problem at all. Woody nearly getting burnt like an ant by Sid. The weird historic scenes of as Buzz just as a woman and also being extremely mad, like he realizes he's a toy and all that sort of stuff. And the facial movements, of course, that sort of thing, But overall, it's a really good film. I do have to admit it. It's one of my favourite Disney movies of all time. It's along with The Black Cauldron, Oliver and Company, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and what was the other one I forgot? I've literally forgot the other one. Oh God. And I would say just maybe Zootropolis really with that one, or Zootopia on that one. But they're really good films, fantastic films. I mean, interesting ideas. Interesting thought. Just interesting stuff with that one, really. But Toy Story, first one, brilliant. Second one's good as well. I can understand people always love Toy Story 2. No problem with that. It's a good sequel. That is a fantastic sequel. That is. But I always just think of the first one really. Considering how old I am really with that one, how the longevity of that one is like it's time. It's your movie that you remember from your childhood and actually still holds up. Even though it's a bit dated in some places, but that's the charm of it really. And your fourth and final question is: do you own any SpongeBob SquarePants DVDs? No, not really. I did, however, I did remember getting a pirated copy of one. I forgot the name. I don't know the name of it, but it was just there. I just got a pirated copy of one of those DVDs at some point. And I think same with the SpongeBob SquarePants movie from it was in the mid-2000s that came out. Who remembers that movie? But I do remember watching SpongeBob SquarePants on Nickelodeon or Nicktoons or something like that back in the day. I mean, people always enjoy the old ones because of its surrealness, and I can see why. It's like it's quirky and it's weird, not like as it is today. It's too overblown, too mainstream, and all this stupidity. Everything's on the wind. Everything's sort of gone. It's quite soulless now. But when it first came out, it was sort of this new show, um, you know, and it has added all surreal elements, of course. I still remember that butterfly episode, of course, when and once they're in a butterfly the first time, you basically they basically show off like a zoom, they zoom on, they showcase this like sort of documentary footage of a butterfly zoomed into its face and stuff like that, creepy as hell. That's terrifying. That is, and they did that. They did a lot of risk and actually really creep the audience out. Some very disturbing imagery as well. They really showcase what they can do. Very Ren and Stimpy. It has its Ren and Stimpy moments, even though it's not. Ren and Stimpy just it does still reigns high as being so very crude and over the top and everything else like that. But SpongeBob SquarePants comes in a close second. I still all these weird it's weird humor, very elements of satire as well. They use some that is really gone as of today. Like when he came back when he first shown was at the very tail end of the 90s, early 2000s. It really comes as a big surprise and actually a very very big eye opener for people. It really came there. It's like having a punch between the eyes, very much, and you see this weird stuff. Surreal, strange, interesting characters. And it should have really gone on high, very much at some point. They really did some interesting things that you never expect. And the movie, I do remember the movie came in as well. Again, sort of bombastic and surreal as well. And David Hasselhoff with a automatic chest and stuff like that. And you think, what is that about? The Cyclops being a diver, very much in that sort of thing. A parody of Twisted Sister. That's it, of Twisted Sister. In very very interesting, and obviously and obviously Patrick with very long legs actually became a meme that did actually, or I think someone actually used it as I know a gay lad actually I've known for a long time, sadly committed suicide recently, and he sort of used that as a sort of an image he did on his social media, using long legs and actually being his symbolism of being free, being out there, being himself, really, and it was interesting. Interesting experience. I never saw it in cinemas, but I got a pirated copy of that years ago. This is back in the day I used to get pirated copies. I still have some now, actually, but I don't anymore. With the rise of internet and torrent sites and Fire Sticks and everything else, you can watch it on the front of your television with just a tiny remote. Interesting times we live in, even though they want to get rid of all this sort of stuff because of piracy and everything, and it's just one of those things, really. I don't own any SpongeBob DVDs at all. Maybe because I've grown out of it, really. It really came to a certain point, actually, I think when I lost Sky. Sky, if you know what I mean. My sort of thing of it just went, really. It faded quickly as it can, actually. Everything else, Cartoon Network and everything else, faded. Of course, afterwards I just didn't bother, really. I think you've basically grown up, really. You're saying, you're sort of growing old, you are. I mean, look at me now, very much. But, people are still enjoying these days, even though it's not the same as it used to be. But, in question, I don't own any. I did have one, but that's gone, really. I think that was thrown away and junked or something like that. But no, sadly not, Aiden. Sorry, mate. And that's questions done. That's the questionnaire sorted out. Sorry, it took a bit too long. I have to do these in parts, actually. Record parts on one different day and stuff like that. I did record 2 parts in one day, so that's okay. But I have to record the other two parts in the other day. So that's the last set of questions done. Thank you guys for the questions. I'm very proud of it. You know, it's a decent Q&A, this is. So I have to edit together and actually put it together. So that's good. And thank you for watching. See you for the next video. Goodbye.